Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another Travel Mole broadcast. I've been naming them COVID. I'm hoping that this will be one of the last of these COVID broadcasts, because in the future we're going to be talking about travel broadcasts as COVID starts to dip into the background towards the end of this horrendous year for travel. But today I am delighted to have the cream of the crop from South Africa, who I'm delighted to say have opened their international borders to a number of countries, but not to everybody. And so this morning I've got three individuals who have been involved in inbound tourism for some years and are obviously experts in it. So from the last word, I have Nikki. Good morning, or good afternoon, Nikki.
Hi, Graham. Nice to be here. Yeah, thank you very much for the opportunity to chat about what we're going through.
Oh, no problem. I also have David from Rhino Africa. Good afternoon, David.
Good afternoon, Graham. Lovely to be here. Great to be part of this conversation.
Excellent. And finally, an old friend of mine who's a reasonable golfer, as it happens, and it's David Frost, and he's the top man at Saxo. Good afternoon, David.
Hi, Graham. Yeah, just fitting that I've got the fan court backdrop behind me, but
very, 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 very
looking forward
interesting
to the conversation as well.
No doubt you've been round in under par on a number of occasions. Let's move on. David, let me start with you. David Saxo, I'll call you, as opposed to David Frost. David Saxo, where are we at exactly with the state of the South African tourism industry? When I spoke to some of your colleagues probably about 12 weeks ago, it was really almost desperation levels, people concerned about the longevity of many businesses. Some accommodation is going to have to shut down, some attractions going to have to shut down. Where are you at, and has domestic tourism helped any of that?
Okay, so Graham, let me try and put it as succinctly as possible. The government adopted as indeed your government in the UK did, it's a risk adjusted response to the pandemic. And we started off level 5, came down to level 2, and at level 2, domestic travel was opened up for both business and leisure, but without any checks and balances. So I can, get in my car. I live in Joburg. I can drive down to Grahamstown. Nobody checks me at any points, and that was really a welcome development, because it allowed at least the sort of grease to start turning the wheels. And although a lot of the inbound sector is focused predominantly on inbound, we at least, obviously with outbound travel out of South Africa being limited, there was quite a lot of sort of movement. And then we've subsequently gone to level 1. And at level 1, the president announced 2 weeks ago that we would open international travel. But the backdrop to this, and I think this is quite an important side of it, is although there have been relatively high levels recorded of the pandemic, and at one stage South Africa was at quite a high level in the world, the pandemic itself has abated dramatically. And we've got a group of progressive scientists and epidemiologists who've been predicting this, the Panda Group. And far from the doom and gloom that we got from certain people, their predictions have been spot on. And this gives us the sort of courage as the tourism industry to, in our engagements with government, and they haven't been easy, to really put on the table our position. And our position, and this is our fundamental position rooted in science, is now that we've opened domestic travel and you can travel around, and we've got community transmissions, we're not trying to do the Aussie model, is we could open safely to any country in the world. It's not germane what your level of infections are in the UK. If we were seeking to import every single UK citizen to South Africa, then we would have to worry about it. But all we're doing is bringing a small, sanitized, pre-checked group of people who've got and this is important, they've got a particular interest in not getting COVID before they travel, because that wouldn't be much fun on holiday. And we bring them into South Africa, and coupled with this, we've done an extensive amount of work setting up really stringent protocols in terms of how we would risk manage people, and there are apps that track people going around, so that, I mean, in a nutshell, you can have a holiday here safely and sort of comfortably. So that's been our position with government. They've gone on their own tangent and have got themselves into initially a matrix that seeks to sort of position us relative to other countries' level of the pandemic. And we are still trying to make sense of what this matrix is. But essentially, we opened to a select number of countries. Germany was one of them. And sadly, the UK and the US were not. So we don't accept that. And we are continuing discussions with government to try and get them to see sense. But that's in a nutshell where we are.
Well, that's very good. I mean, because I saw the list of people, countries that aren't allowed in yet, and it's probably easier to say those that are. But at least it's a start. It's a start. And because it's obviously a two-way thing to open an air corridor, and for people to want to come on holiday or come on vacation or come on business to South Africa, it's got to be a two-way thing. So if I come back from South Africa, I don't necessarily want to sit in this room for 2 weeks because I'm going to have to self-isolate. Perhaps I can move on to you, Nikki. If I was to turn up at one of your establishments, and I know that they're, the top of the quality range, if I may say so, and you've got a number of properties throughout the country, would I be able to enjoy what I would call a safe holiday? And by that I mean COVID safe. I'm not talking about getting run over or breaking my leg, or in this case, it might be appropriate to talk about my hip. But would I be able to enjoy a COVID safe vacation?
For sure. Graham, definitely. I mean, we've been, like many hotels and lodges, have been preparing for many weeks to be travel ready for particularly for the international market, knowing that someone is coming from a long haul destination, is making the effort to fly all the way here. For sure, on the ground, everything has been done. So we have, for our 4 properties, certainly within the Last Word Group, we've got the TBCSA COVID compliance certificates at every property, which is a huge thing. I mean, it just creates credibility in terms of what you've got in terms of process. We've got screening going for staff every day. We track and trace every staff member that comes in, obviously every single guest that comes in. So without a doubt, we've got sanitizing stations throughout all the properties. We do deep cleans of rooms, and this is, I think, from a 5-star perspective, it's not something new. I mean, we've always at this level made sure that everything is 100% clean and taken care of. But obviously, just to give peace of mind to a traveler coming in and staying with us, yes, everything has been put in place, and we are so ready to start accepting guests. We just need the markets to be allowed to come in. And if I can just point out, for us, 70% of our business does come out of the UK market into our properties, and it's absolutely vital that we can have those bookings coming through, not only hopefully in the next couple of weeks, but certainly for 2021. And the protocols and everything that is in place is certainly not going to disappear. We will keep those going, as will every other property in South Africa, for as long as eternity if need be. So yeah, we're ready. We're waiting. We're hoping.
Yeah. And if I was to turn up and say one of your Cape Town properties, and I wanted to go down to the waterfront, would that be open? Do I have to wear a mask? Do I have to book restaurants? What are the restrictions, if any, on that?
Well, as with anything in South Africa at the moment, you do have to wear a mask when you're out in public. So yes, you would have to wear a mask if you went off to do some sort of activity, whether it's in a restaurant or going up Table Mountain or to the waterfront. Obviously, while dining, you don't have to wear the mask. But it's standard practice throughout the entire industry at the moment. And when I talk hotels and lodges, it's obviously referring to what we do. But anything you do within Cape Town or South Africa, every precaution has been taken to ensure that there's minimum risk when traveling to the country.
Okay. And throughout this process, I'm going back to David Frost. Throughout this process, how have your members, how have the tour operators, hotel groups, attractions, everybody. How have they been keeping the travel trade and indeed consumers up to date? Have you been relying mainly on SATUR to do that, or have you been doing your own individual communications with your key agents, key operators?
Well, look, Graham, SATSA being the Inbound Tourism Association, we've got 1,300 members, and we span the whole inbound gamut from properties, adventure operators, inbound tour operators, the wheels guys, airlines, etc. And, we've been communicating, I think, fairly effectively, or very effectively, I would say, on keeping everybody sort of up to speed. We've had regular sessions on a wide range of issues. I mean, the protocols being one of them. How we would sort of open up. We've looked at how, and it's, quite an exhaustive conversation on trying to reimagine what the value chain looks like. And, obviously this crisis put a lot of that into quite stark reality. But we've just, and indeed a lot of those webinars have drawn in an international audience. But our individual members have their customers, and they've been talking to them through the process. But just to sort of pick up on if I could just amplify what Nikki was saying about the travel readiness. I mean, I think, Graham, sometimes people are unaware or just forget what the macro picture looks like. South Africa is not a mass tourism destination and never has been. When we were at our peak before this pandemic, we got 2.6 million overseas arrivals. I mean, Thailand gets 33 million, Turkey gets 56 million. We're not in that bad. We're in a very sort of small, sanitized, bespoke, relatively bespoke sort of experience here. And a lot of the experiences in South Africa are outdoors, particularly wildlife and a lot of that. And in many ways, we're the ultimate COVID destination. And I think that's something that everybody's looking forward to. And what happened is when we opened domestic travel, there's a lot of high-end, wealthy people in South Africa who, would generally be in Bali or Paris or whatever, and they haven't been able to go there. So these guys have gone in and they've been crawling all over the top-end properties in South Africa. And in doing so, we just proved that travel can happen here incredibly safely, but at the same time in a way that doesn't detract from your essential experience. Be it wildlife, be it wine, be it dining, or doing some of the amazing sort of adventure stuff that we've got to offer. All that sort of goes on and sort of happens quite safely.
Good. Now, David Ryan, you're the man in the bush. You're the man with absolutely the product that South Africa is probably best known for. Do you think that perversely that you will do extremely well post-COVID because of the nature of the product you sell?
Absolutely, Graham. I think adding to what Nikki and David said is if you look at South Africa and you look at even expand that to Southern Africa, I think we're a low volume, high value tourism proposition, which I think is going to be a far more favorable choice for travelers going forward. The idea of lower density destinations, the idea of being out in the open. What we're already witnessing is as we moved our forward book from 2020 to 2021, we're starting to see a change in consumer behavior where they're wanting to spend longer periods in the bush, longer periods in sort of low density, isolated areas and wildlife destinations. So we're seeing, your average sort of safari booking move from the sort of 3 to 4 nights to 5 to 6 to 7 nights. So absolutely, I think it's going to be one of our strongest USPs and one of our strongest tailwinds in the recovery is that I think we have a product in South Africa, in Southern Africa, that the world aspires to and really is a safe product to sort of experience now in the immediate aftermath of COVID.
So as far as Rhino Afro is concerned, you obviously do your own marketing, you have your own brand, credentials, and do you think that South Africa as a country, in terms of being an international attraction, Do you think that the brand South Africa is still good to go, or do you think it needs to re-emphasize the fact that you lead on low volume, high value, low density, high on sustainability, high on conservation, high on wildlife, high on getting back to nature, rather than necessarily all the other things that South Africa are known for, like wine and sport and stuff like that?
Well, I think as a whole, South Africa is a destination, and all those things come into play, whether you're in the winelands or whether you're on safari. They're both sort of low density sort of experience, and they enhance the overall travel experience. I think COVID presents a unique opportunity for Brand South Africa, in that it is an ability to reinvent itself, and it gives it a window of opportunity that other destinations don't have in its rebranding. So I think it would be silly not to take advantage of that opportunity. You know, for most of the world, they haven't traveled this year. There's a lot of pent-up travel demand. For the high-end sort of traveler from around the world, travel is like food for the soul. It's not something that's just going to go away. That hunger's been building up. I believe there's going to be lots of pent-up demand, and as a result, someone like Brand SA has a unique opportunity to capitalize on that. I always refer to it as almost like a blocked pipe. I see COVID, like we did with Ebola, as a bit of a blocked pipe. I think when the blockage comes, the water's going to gush, and we're going to have great pent-up demand, and we've got product, and we've got a destination that is ready to look after and make sure that travelers coming to South Africa are safe. You know, for years we've kept clients in a safety bubble as they travel through South Africa and Southern Africa. There's no reason the same logic doesn't apply for keeping travelers safe from something like COVID.
Cool. Nikki, your organization, you're a businesswoman, you're involved very heavily in South African tourism, not just from your own business, but all sorts of other representative organizations. Do you think that South Africa will take that opportunity that David has described to re-emphasize or to remodel the brand?
Yes, Graham, I do believe that we will. I mean, it's in a in a post-COVID travel environment. As David and David have both said, South Africa just ticks every single box in terms of what you're looking for: open spaces, you know, uncrowded environments. And if I take what we do at Last Word with our 4 properties, we're very small, very boutique. We like literally 6, 9, and 10 rooms per property. So that allows for that kind of exclusive kind of feeling that you would get when staying in a property where it's not, you know, a 300 or 400 bedroom hotel. It's a very intimate type environment. Social distancing is not an issue to do. So capitalizing on that for Brand South Africa would certainly work exceedingly well. And this is the time that we need to do it. Whilst, you know, the markets are not 100% traveling back into South Africa at the moment, we need to use this opportunity to educate, to convince, and say, listen, it's safe. We're going to look after you. You're not in the masses. It's an amazing country to come to. We've got so much to offer, from safari to the winelands to the city centre type environment, beaches, golf, etc. It's all outdoors. It's all being busy and active and healthy, if I can put it that way. You know, we have the sun that's going to come out and shine, not today, but you know, going forward, we're going into summer here. An amazing time. We just really just need that opportunity for the markets, as I say, to open and for people to book. We're ready. We really are. Yeah. Good.
David Frost, let me finish in summary with you. Given though the enthusiasm of David Ryan and Nikki, how confident are you that South Africa is one of their, you know, the biggest economic sectors, which is travel, will survive and prosper indeed over the course of the next 2 to 3 years? And what do you think the central government needs to do and people need to do in order to make sure that that happens?
Well, look, I think it has been a hell of a tough time, Graham, but there are incredibly robust players out there, and we're a hardy lot on the southern tip of Africa. We are forged, not crafted, and those that come through this, and I believe that we will at least get the majority of our members through this thing. I think that people have. It's been tough, but a lot of business going to be able to sort of ride this out. So they will be there. I mean, the key question is, as you say, it's sort of in government's hands. Our interactions, I must say, are arduous. They do not do things with us, tend to do things on their own. We are witnessed, and to be frank, a lot of what I would call crooked and muddled thinking from them. But we have a particularly adept team at the Tourism Business Council, supported by organizations such as SATSA, and we lobby really hard. So we've been hard at it to try and get sense to prevail in this particular situation. And as both David and Nikki have said, we've got an amazing opportunity to be a first mover in this. Kenya and Tanzania have opened, and they haven't seen any major increases or spikes from what they're doing. But, we need to be brave, and we need to get out and be able to open up. And in doing so, let's show the world what we can do. Let's show our own government that this can actually happen safely. And then we can play the role that the president always, alludes to, and that's to generate revenue, because we sorely need revenue in this country, and to create jobs. So those are the two sort of key drivers that we are aiming at. But our plea to government is start with us, make us part of the solution. Opening up is a complex and technical issue, and we're the people who actually do tourism. Government just merely creates an environment in which tourism happens. So it is. I mean, it's a hard slog. So, and I mean, I watch Sky News quite often. Your own hospitality industry's got their own challenges, as indeed everybody has around the world. But we do have this opportunity as a first mover. I mean, our big key competitor is Australia. They've always outperformed us. We've always looked to them as the sort of, the great model. But they've in a sense really screwed themselves. They've gone for this model to try and keep it out. And as the Swedish guy said to them, you haven't really thought about how you're going to open up, have you? Because they can't open up. So that's a big competitor that's not there. And I think that if we can open up, as my colleagues have said, with the product that we've got, we can be an amazing tourism destination in this brave new world we find ourselves in.
Good. And well, as you say, David, not that it's much consolation, but I speak to lots of people around the world on these subjects about opening up, about post-COVID, about sustainability and peace and love and all those sorts of things. And wherever you go, almost without exception, the government does appear to put tourism into some different type of pocket, and certainly not at the top of the priority list or anywhere near the top of the priority list as most people in the tourism industry think it should be. But that's for another day. That we could go on for hours about that subject. So I'd like to thank you, David Frost. Thank you very much. Nikki, thank you very much. David Ryan. Stuck in the jungle, stuck in the bush. Thank you very much. And I look forward to hopefully seeing you in South Africa sometime, either late this year or early next.
Great. Thanks, Blue.
Thank you, Graham.
Thanks a lot.
Well,
Cheers.
Thanks so much.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Graham. Okay.